Hi, welcome back to episode 7.
We're over halfway
We
of
are.
season 2.
I hope you guys are loving the podcast because I feel this season has just been really good topics that we've spoken about. Don't know if you agree. I agree.
Of course, yeah. Why would I not?
Yeah. But today we're just going over a bit of like mental labour, and I don't know. When I first we were talking about the topic mental labour, I was thinking mental labour, is that like hypnobirthing and stuff? And you're like, no, the mental labour of being the default parent or like parents.
Yeah, the default home runner, the default parent, and that mental load that actually comes with that.
But having that mental load, it is a lot, and I think at the moment when you become parents,
it's definitely a hidden burden.
Yeah, definitely.
That you don't realise that you take on until you're in the thick of it, and then it's like too late to manage, and it's managing you almost.
And it's also, I feel like it's a lot of building as like when you become parents, because you almost just take on natural tasks. Men take on, not necessarily men and women, but being a default parent
in our circumstances, for both of us actually, both of our like fiance and husband are the financial power, are the financial they are the breadwinners, and they work full time, so their mind is with work for the majority of their lives,
and
we have little financial effect really on our household, and we're both self-employed, working part-time effectively, and have the ability to adapt our work schedule around our family. But then that means we have to do the thinking for everyone.
Yeah.
And that's
a lot.
Tiring.
And it is a lot. And I think it is, I don't think it's spoken about sometimes enough, like the load that you, like, I remember watching someone, and like as the default parent, I'll say, I just go like, they were basically saying, oh my goodness, I've really stopped my words there. Talking about just like what we think about. I'm talking about a woman's perspective, just from my perspective, because I definitely agreed.
That's the only perspective you have.
Yeah, exactly. But they were talking about how when you go to bed, you think about all these list of things that have got to be done the next day, or have you done this? Has so and so done that? Have you got this? Have you got that? Do I need to go do this tomorrow? And like that's the regular thinking of the almost default parent brain on, like, but for me, it is my brain, like, oh my god, we've run out of coffee, I need to go get coffee, I need to put that on the list, like that, like even like little small things like that, or the washing hasn't been done, and like I know I'm talking about but it's that kind of
also,
stuff.
Like, we're both neurospicy, like, which I'm sure we'll talk about in the future at some point, whereas our partners really aren't, so our brains are naturally like that. I feel like one, was susceptible to taking on mental labour even if we didn't have to, and then 2, the fact that we have to, it's excessive, and it affects us both physically in terms of burnout and things.
Definitely, it's a good time to do this podcast because I'm feeling that slight burnout at the moment.
I feel like I'm coming out of it.
I'm literally like, you're coming out, I'm like heading in. I think,
no.
Yes, like you can have things very 50-50, but I find because I'm at home, I just feel like that kind of just falls upon me to do.
And also, like, I don't know about you guys, but Aaron and I have had these conversations about like what our roles are. If I'm these conversations evolve and they progress, and we'll talk about this a little bit more detail when we talk about parent partnerships. But when I left my retail job, we had a conversation of then what is my responsibilities if I'm staying home as a default parent, and you know that did cover most of the things that fall into the mental labour. But I think the biggest part of mental labour, where it catches you out, is when you are that individual that's taken all these things on for the rest of your house, when you need the time, when you need the rest, if you're unwell, if you're getting burnt out, anything like that. I don't know about you, but I personally feel like everything crumbles, and everything that I've worked hard at and maintaining just falls apart in a matter of days.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's not to say that Aaron doesn't help or tries to help as much as he can, but he also doesn't do these things on the regular.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not as efficient at it as I am. Mm-hmm. And that's the most frustrating part, especially if it's just like I've been ill with a cold and then 3 days later I'm fine and the house is literally trashed. I'm just like, give me a break.
Yeah.
Like I've not chosen to have 3 days off. I've been ill.
Yeah, it's not like that. And I think that's the biggest thing of if you are the default parent and you are the ones mainly looking after the children or running the house, when you almost get ill, it's like when you need a break, everything stops.
Yeah,
it's not like things just keep going. Like, you just have to, and if you do get ill or you feel rubbish, everything just gets piled up on top because it's not been done. My biggest thing is washing. If I'm not like feeling great, the washing just gets left and left and left, and then it's like, Scarlett, I don't have any pants.
Oh
and
my
I'm like,
gosh, yeah.
Okay, I haven't done the washing.
It's like, when did you notice you were running low on underwear?
Could you not tell me? Like,
or could you not just
put a wash on?
Put two and two together and be like, oh, she's not feeling great. I've got no clothes. Oh, and our wash baskets are full. Maybe I'll just put a load in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like that thing of like, and I don't necessarily think it's
a gender thing.
A gender thing, or like like he's blind, just doesn't. I
say to Aaron all the time, he's got blinkers on.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it like as if I'm taking offence, like, because I'm not.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes like it's just not because it's not a thought that happens regularly of
and
the
a
washing.
Thought that they don't have to have.
No, they're responsible for doing the house. But if I'm ill, it gets left. But when he's ill, he's just got to keep.
Yeah, they just have
going.
to keep. They have no choice if they're. Aaron, I don't know how he manages it. Is hardly ever ill. He's
like immune.
Yeah, he's a big one for like positive mental attitude. I'm like, yeah, right. I can feel as positive as I want, but if I get a virus, I'm coming down.
Yeah.
But he just flies through illnesses. But when things for him, if he does get ill and it starts affecting him, he is really ill, but he still can't take that time off. And you know, it's such a two sides of the same coin, because if he's ill, he cannot not work. If he doesn't work, our household doesn't have an income really. Whereas for me, if the kids are ill, I'm the one that has to not work. So I'm held back in that sense of where I can take my business and I have to be very flexible. Whereas for him, unless it is dire, like he has to crack on.
Yeah. I definitely find that quite hard though as well sometimes. Like, especially, obviously we are self-employed as well, so we are the parent. We are able to be that flexible default parent. But both parents who do work, I just find like, I don't know how the workforce is though, but like being able to just drop, it must be so hard for them because they've got to leave like a company to like, because if you are the default parent, it's like, okay, my child's ill, I've got to stop work and
you're the one that becomes unreliable in your job. And then also then it might limit what jobs you might take. You might take more of that supermarket low paying role, because if you lost that job, you lost that job, you know. Whereas if you're a managing director and you lose that job, you can't just necessarily go walk into another job in a month's time. Whereas if there's more roles that are, I don't think, because I've worked throughout retail my whole life, but that are deemed more accessible and deemed that you don't need as much experience or specific skill sets to do those roles, that might be all that you limit yourself to, because
you need to be there and flexible.
Yeah. And, you know, that's a horrible position to potentially be in if you feel like you're so much more capable
to do more. It is definitely, it is really hard, like being that, it's really hard because obviously it is the default parent, because in any relationship it can be either the dad's at home doing that, the mental load, and vice versa. But obviously with our experience, we are the default parent, so I'm seeing it as like a woman's side, because that's just
the perspective that you have, live.
Exactly. And like I definitely feel like it's just, for us, the list of things that need to go on in my head for a week. How much food is left in the house? What are the dinners for the week? Is the washing up to date? Is the house clean? How much, like,
it's are we able mental list, isn't it?
Yeah, like, are we able to get to activities on time? I need to make sure these days a week I'm out the house from this time, so I need to make sure this and this is done. I need to make sure I've got all the right snacks in the house for both people in my household. I have to make sure there's 2 sets of snacks, children and adult. But I think that, like I said, like I'm gonna not paint. I'm gonna drop Josh in it.
Oh no.
No, I'm just like, I say to him, like on a Sunday, I'm like, right, what dinners do you want for this week? Because I'm gonna go do a food shop, just so I don't have to think about every single meal that I'm gonna cook that week. And he goes, oh, I don't mind. You know what I like?
Yeah.
I'm like, is there anything in particular you want for dinner?
No, I'll have what you're having.
Yeah, literally. And I'm like,
what you fancy.
I'm like, so do you want sausage pasta? Oh yes, sausage pasta. I'm like,
and if you're not in a position where that is your like daily, so for me, we don't struggle with that so much, but that's because I've come up with a solution.
Yeah.
Again, like being the one that runs the household, I've had to think of a thought process of, this isn't working for me.
Yeah.
I need to come up with a solution that works. So I arrange we do the batch cooking together sometimes, but I'm the one that arranges it, buys everything for it, and then that all just gets dumped in the freezer, and then it's just his role to make sure that we've got meals in the fridge. So he's the one that goes out and he will literally just pick up whatever's at the top. So I've already arranged for it all to be mixed in the freezer, so we get different meals each evening. So that mental labour is still there for me, but that element is just like minored down a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, he has his responsibility of, you know, I need 4 or 5 meals out that fridge, out that freezer, put in the fridge every week, and I still have to remind him most weeks. And again, it's like, it's
the reminding. It's not like,
and it's not to say that they don't help and they don't do all these things, because I really feel so privileged with how much Aaron helps out around the house. I personally just feel like I am blessed with what he's willing to do, and like, considering I also know how hard he works, but I still do the mental labour side of it, and that's the bit that we're trying to get to. I feel like we're trying to get there, we're trying to be conscious that we're not painting this picture that our halves are awful, because they're not,
no, and they've got their own mental load going on. I think that's like a big thing that we do want to make sure that, like, they have, like, the parent who is the main finance, I don't even know the word.
I just feel like, for like, if we look at our actual situations, if we go back to sort of 18 months ago, my husband was stuck in a job that was absolutely crippling his mental health, and he's someone that is so mentally strong, so no one could see it other than like myself and maybe his parents and my parents, and maybe a few of his friends might have seen glimpses of it, but he was not himself. He was a shadow of himself, and he's someone that is very relaxed, and all of a sudden he's starting to get ticked off by things, but he felt he was in a position where he couldn't leave that job, and I, again, like, couldn't imagine being in that situation. That is a hell of a mental load to take on, that you feel trapped in a job that you can't leave because you've got a family that rely on you. And statistically, like, men are normally in that position within a household. So then you look at like male suicide rates, and you kind of see maybe there's a bit of a correlation there, but then also you see all these women who are burnt out, and I'm not just like to say this is the same as suicide at all, but like, you see all these women that are completely burnt out, running around, like, working part-time or stay-at-home parents, in just appearances awful and on the verge of a mental breakdown, probably 50% of us, because we're just...
It's just, that mental load is just piling up sometimes, and you just get to the point where you're like, I can't do it anymore, I just need a break.
Just need a break, and that break's not coming.
Yeah, because you just... And I think as well, when you become a parent, it is a 24/7 job. Like, then I remember sometimes I'm like, oh, I could really just do with just sleeping. I know obviously you get the times when you your children go off to your pet, like get babysitters or whatever, but sometimes you just can't. That one night during the week, you're like, oh, I could really just do with not being a parent today, because I just need a break. But you don't have that choice. And it's the same with the parent who goes out to work. They don't almost have that choice. They have to go out to work if they're not very well. Especially in our case, Josh works so hard to provide for us, and he's so amazing, and he just, no matter what, if he's ill, he's hurt his back, he is out there because he knows, grafting, trying to make us have a better life in the future. And I'm very appreciative of that. Like, I couldn't thank him enough for that, what he does, because that must be so hard, because he also sacrifices that time with Finn. And I think that's a big thing, is because he goes out to work a lot, he sacrifices that time with Finn and spending time with his family, because he's so like, well, I have to make money, I need to make this for our future. So he leaves before really Finny wakes up, or as soon as he brings Finn in and goes, and then he's back at tea time and bedtime. And I know that, and some parents them hours are even longer.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it's like, really hard, because they do sacrifice that time for the family, because they've got the mental load of running and keeping the house financially almost stable.
Yeah. But then, I've definitely got better, because I manage myself better now with the girls. But I used to get so resentful, especially during COVID lockdown, because Aaron was still obviously the first lockdown, so he worked throughout the whole of COVID. But then when they were able to go back into work and things, but there were still restrictions of what we could do, I used to get so resentful of the fact that he was allowed breaks at work, and that he had just a 10-15 minute commute to work, because I wasn't getting those, and I still don't now. So like, sometimes if I'm really burnt out, I struggle not to get annoyed at him that he gets to drive 30 minutes home just listening to music and unwinding before he walks through the door. So some people may see it as selfish, but when Aaron comes through the door, he takes the reins for half an hour, and there is that element of like, well, he's just been working all day and now he's coming home looking after the kids. It's like, yeah, but he's also had a half an hour calm down, wind down. Obviously, if he's had a bad day, we communicate with each other. So if he's not feeling up for it, or if he's like a bit stressed or whatever, then we'll work to what suits both of us. But most days he does take charge when he comes home, just so that I can have 30 minutes of peace and just my mind to my own. Because my mind is constantly ticking and thinking about everyone else. Like, Aaron doesn't need to know what shoe sizes everyone is. Yeah. He does know. I was impressed the other day because I quizzed him on it, and he does know Lily's shoe size. But that was a fluke. I can't remember what it was. He had looked for some reason.
Oh, really?
But it's that sort of thing. Like,
I feel like I need to ask Josh that question now.
I carry the itinerary of everyone's schedules. Yeah. I carry like the constant ticking of a list of what clothes has everyone got, what clothes do I need to get everyone for summer, what clothes are we running out of, like, do we need more vests for the girls, do we need more knickers, nappies, how are we on nappies? And it is just
wipes, nappy, it just keeps
constant.
Going. Now you've said that, I'm literally like sitting here going, oh my gosh, I don't have enough warm like summery clothes for Finn.
Yeah, like, no, Harper's got does not have enough, and I'm just like, but I can't figure out, this is baby brain play, and this is why it shows like that mental labour, because it's like ticking me off, because my baby brain cannot compute how it normally would, and I'm like, I need to buy Harper some clothes for summer, but I don't know what I just can't make it make sense.
Yeah,
make it make sense for me. It just doesn't.
No.
And we
what summer clothes I feel like I can't even talk because I'm like, like this is going a bit side note because I know we're talking about clothes, but Finn is a very small boy. He can still fit in 9 to 12 month clothes, and he's coming up 17 months. Like, so he can still happily fit in it.
Yeah.
So I'm buying all these clothes, summer clothes that are 18 to 24 months because in my head I'm going, well, that's his size. But I'm like, they're all too big for him. He's not going to be able to wear them when he's hot because he'll be too small for them because he's not small, but he just fits in smaller clothes, if that makes... I don't know. And now I'm panicking because I'm like, I've bought all these summery bits and they're 18 to 24
and
months.
that panic and that stress that you're taking on.
And that's me.
That mental labour is because you're like the default parent.
Yeah, like...
And it's just mind-blowing. But I think there is an element of like efficiency though. Like, because...
I'm thinking this in advance as well.
You're working out what's most efficient for you. What do you need to get? So you've created this program that is at its most effectiveness to suit your needs. So then, like, when the guys do need to step up and help us, it just slows the whole process down. It's hard for them to help because we've created a system that works for us, not them. And then...
And what works for them doesn't work for us.
Yeah, exactly. I was just telling you, wasn't I, about this little experiment, just a fun experiment I'd seen, where these people in the office had hidden something in the fridge, and the fridge is like minimal. There's maybe like, each shelf has maybe like 1 or 2 things on them, and they've hidden something behind 2 cans of Coke, and every male in the office but one could not find this hidden item, and every single woman in that office, all they did was move the Coke and find the item. And I'm not saying this is gender specific, although I think more research might need to go into that. But I think it's because the majority of females in that situation probably do run the household, are the default parent, so they know what's most efficient. They know that something might just be hiding behind there, because in their own fridge they've created an efficient layout for them where butter goes behind the yogurt, or
that's where it sits in the shelf.
Yeah.
So even doing the cupboards, when you came around, we moved all the cupboards round.
I bet that threw Josh right off.
He's still confused. He was emptying the
this
dishwasher.
Was like 6-7 weeks ago.
Yeah, he was like, where does this go? Like Finn's plate, he was like, where do these plates go now? You've like moved it like 3 times. And I'm like, they're in the cupboard, Josh. They're in this cupboard. And he went, oh, you just keep moving things. And I'm like, yeah, because it doesn't work. Like,
because you're creating something that's efficient
like
for you.
I don't like it, so I'm gonna move it. But then it throws him off because I don't go, I've labelled like this is where this goes, because he's not a child. I'm not gonna like be like that with him. But like, obviously he's not in the house, so when he comes down he's like, where has Scarlett put everything? And he's like, Scarlett, where have you put everything? And I'm like, oh yeah, I've moved it all around. And he's like, oh, for goodness sake, here we go again. But in his eyes he's like, just keep it how it was, because then I know where it is. But I'm like, but it's not efficient enough. So then it's my mental load. But
what I struggle with mental load as a whole is the more you take on, the more you're expected to take on. So like with that element, Aaron and I had a very similar conversation the other day, because I just zhuzhed up our utility room and like kind of preparing for space for when the baby's here, like where the bottles will go and things. But the only thing I actually moved is something he never needs, and that was the Tupperware. That was the one thing I'd changed from one cupboard to the other. The other cupboards were just, I'd put more stuff in, so I had to make more room and just neaten it up. And he was looking for something, and his defence for why he couldn't just find it, and it was not a big deal for him to just come and ask me, because I was a bit touchy, and I was like, why do you need to come, like, why don't you just open your eyes and have a look and find it yourself? Like, now you've given me this task to go off and find it for you. And his defence was because I'd sorted the utility room out and I'd moved everything around, and it was like, it highlighted that what was most efficient for him was to just come ask me.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the most efficient thing for me. If anything, that meant I had to stop, whatever I was doing and go find this item for him. But the only reason why we were in that situation is because I'd taken on that load already. So now I'm taking on more load because I already do the load.
Yeah.
And it's that vicious cycle that just, I think, just happens. And I think, like we said at the beginning, it's a bit of a hidden burden. And it's not to say that, like, oh my God, my husband, my other half is so awful, he doesn't know all this stuff. It's just naturally, I have to know all this stuff. But no one necessarily sees that that's what I'm having to contend with on a daily basis.
Yes. And I definitely feel that I also would like, I'd take on that role, the mental load, is because it makes Josh's life easier. Josh's life easier, because if I can make sure,
he can just focus on work,
and then, like, I do say that I don't do it every day. I don't. Some days I do make Josh's lunch, and people are like, you make Josh's lunch, Josh, you're so lucky. And I'm like,
I say that. That's me.
Yeah.
That's me. I'm the one that says that.
Like, I'll say to her, he got in from jiu-jitsu the other night, and I was like, oh, by the way, your 2 wraps are in there in foil. And he was like, oh, thanks, babe. And I was like, I don't have to do that, but I do it because I want to do it for him, and I would like him to then not think about having to go and get lunch because I've done it. Most days now, I'm like, I haven't done your lunch. Just get a Tupperware. The leftovers are in the Tupperware.
Creeping in.
Yeah, or it would just be left in a Tupperware. I'm like, just take the leftovers. It's done. Like, I'm not gonna go out my way sometimes, because I'm also like, sometimes I go, what am I gonna have for lunch? I sort Josh's lunch out, and I go, what am I gonna eat? There's nothing in the house. But like,
yeah, and that falls into like, you're choosing to do this, so it's not again to like belittle our partners, but everyone that you care about comes first to yourself.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that.
Yeah,
because I want to do that for him. It's not like I'm being made to do it. I want to do it, so I'm putting that on me.
Yeah.
So I would never belittle, because he doesn't ask me for it. I just do it.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
How would you react if he was like, Scarlett, where's my lunch?
I'd be like, do it yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I wouldn't be like, sorry, I'll make it for you. I'd be like, I haven't done it. You want it? And then he'd go, I'm only joking. But I don't think he would ever say anything. Or he'd say it as a joke.
It would be 100% be a joke.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for Aaron sometimes, because like, it's because he gets, I'm not a morning person, and up until this pregnancy, like, he was always up at crack of dawn anyway. I think because he's had to take on so much of the mental labour with my limitations this time round, that he's actually sleeping in like a normal person. He's up at 7 at the moment, whereas before he'd be like up at 5. So like, he would like make his own lunch and stuff, and I always make sure there's lunch in for him to take, but where he's getting up later, he's just not making it.
Yeah.
But the man is crazy. Like, he will go a whole day without eating, and he's always been a bit like that. That's not since like me being his wife and neglecting him. Like, even before I knew him, he would eat very little for long periods of time, but like, his meal sizes like make up for it, so it's not like he's goes without type thing. But yeah, like, I feel sorry for him. Poor man. Doesn't get the sandwiches made.
Josh doesn't get sandwiches made every day.
Yeah.
And he will just go to the shop. Like, sometimes I made him food and I was like, oh yeah, it wasn't enough, so I went to the shop anyway. I was like,
yeah, and there is a calf. Like, he's more than happy
to go
to the calf.
I think
he just doesn't.
I think as well, like, for us, if we don't do that, we're like, I sometimes panic, like, oh my God, he's not going to have lunch. And I'm also like, he's a grown man. If he wants food, he'll go get it.
Yeah.
He's not
feel
capable.
bad sometimes when he's come home and he's like, first thing, like, his head's in the fridge, or like picking off the girls.
I think that's just them though, because Josh is literally like,
no, I know when he's not had food, because it's like the first thing he beelines for. And I do feel guilty. But then you're right, like, there is that element of like, he's a grown adult.
He can do it himself.
Yeah.
That's how I've had to learn that. Like, he can do it himself. If he's hungry, he'll go get food. I'm not, like, if I haven't done it because I'm tired, and if he's not going to do it, then he's got to go find it himself.
And I think we forget there's like some days like where, like, especially, I feel like I'm pregnant all the time, but when I'm not pregnant, there will be days where I always have to have breakfast. So I will have eaten, but like, I won't have, like, my lunch just gets skipped over because I've only got like a limited amount of time that I need to get some work done or work out. So I'm like, I can't eat and work, and I just skip the meal, and it's probably a similar sort of thing.
Yeah. I do have to admit, this morning, I will say this, we were all having breakfast and Josh went, does Mummy want any cereal?
Aww.
And I was like, no, I'm okay, but thank you for the offer anyway. And that's him. I knew he made a conscious effort to even think of that.
Yeah.
Like,
to include you.
To include me. And it was like making sure that I was fed, which was really nice.
And if I communicate, sometimes my communication is what lets me down. Not always. Sometimes it's just the fact that we come back to those blinkers.
Yeah.
But I'd say it's 50-50, my communication or lack of, and then blinkers when I'm struggling and not getting the help that I need. Yeah. So if I communicate, like, again, like, with being so sick in this pregnancy, I feel like I keep, like, saying this, but it is the case. I've had to communicate what I need from Aaron to just survive.
Yeah.
And so he's really stepped up. Like, I always get breakfast in bed at the moment because if I don't, I'm super nauseous. And he does that for me without asking, and he just cracks on. And quite frankly, he doesn't really eat in the morning, so he's feeding me before
he's even thought of
himself. And then, like I said about coming home, like, he does pick up as soon as he walks through that door because I've not had that break, whereas he's had some downtime and adult conversation with other humans. But at the moment he's doing our dinners because I'm in bed by the time it gets to 5:30, that he just takes over. So it'd be interesting when this baby does get here, like, how our dynamic will change, because it will go back to me picking up those things again. But I think where we are at the moment is what I'll be picking up is more just the physical elements. Like, I probably am still carrying that mental element of, like, have you done this, have you done that, with the stuff that I'm unable to physically do.
No, definitely.
Let us know your thoughts. I'd be really interested to know other people's dynamics, and if they feel like, oh my god, like, actually I am just the functioning brain for this whole house. And
because it'd be nice to know as well, like, if it's not, because for our, obviously I've said this is my third time saying it in this podcast, but I just want to, it is like, this is just obviously women are, as we're women and they're men, so it's not anything like that. But even if you're a male listening to this and you're the default parent, and that I'd like to know, like, how you're also
or even
coping.
If you're not the default parent,
just how you're, like, coping.
Do you still find that actually you're not the one parenting the children, but are thinking of everything for them?
That'd be really interesting to know. Or, like, even if you're both 50-50, like, we'd just like to know other people's situation, perspectives and situations, because ours is very similar aspect, like, because of so it'd just be really interesting to know. I feel like that one was a bit of a, I'm, like, burnt out myself.
I feel like I've kind of really, like, mind fucked myself, really.
I feel that way.
I feel like I haven't really got the points across that I wanted to get across, because I'm trying to be respectful and mindful that Aaron works so hard for us as a family, but there's so much that I could just be like, So let us know what you think of this whole topic.
It'd be interesting to know, because I think it's a bit of a
something we might come back to again in the future as well. I think
it's quite a tricky subject, because you don't want it to seem
ungrateful,
or like that you don't appreciate what your other half does.
And I don't want to be poor me, because I'm very happy with the choices that have led me to be the one that carries the mental labour at the same time.
It's just hard work.
I think I'm just looking for validation.
Mate, I agree.
Think that's what it is.
Does anyone agree?
I know Aaron sees it and is appreciative that I carry it. Sometimes I have to tell him that I'm carrying it, and I would like him to be appreciative of it.
Like, please help.
But he is, when we've talked about it. But I feel like as a society, I think we look over mental labour.
I think a lot. And it is, and I think that's the biggest thing for, like, being burnt out sometimes. It's just the mental load, regardless of what you're doing. That's a big thing for being burnt out, because you've just got so much going on of, like, things. But it's been a bit of a
I think we need a coffee break.
I'm literally like, I'm not sure my brain can take more mental load. I'm literally, like, burnt out to the point of, like, I need a coffee, I need some sandwiches, and just
let's go refuel. Anyway, we'll see you next week.
Thanks for joining us. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you for joining us in this week's episode of Honey, I Birthed the Kids. We love sharing our own insights and experiences as parents, but that is just what they are. So if you're concerned by anything discussed today, speak with your GP, midwife or other healthcare professional. For more information about Honey, I Birthed the Kids, visit our social media platforms and website www.honeyiBirthedTheKids.com.